Hello, Year 10. My name is Miss Kalora. I will be running this lesson today. So for today, our title is Varying Vocabulary for Effect, and the date is Friday, the 22nd of January, 2021. Please now write the title and the date as I go through our learning objective. And this is to use sophisticated vocabulary effectively to create tone. So this is what we will be focusing on today. Okay, Year 10. So for our starter activity now, I'd like you to spend roughly 6 minutes looking at the image on the right of a storm, finding 2 to 3 synonyms for the following words to describe the tone effectively. So now just look at the image, think about the tone of the image and also any atmospheric sort of symbolism that you can get from this. So really think now about how you can elevate your vocabulary choices to make them more ambitious and sophisticated. For example, scary, if we were to elevate this for some synonyms, we could think of ominous, terrifying, and sinister. Okay, so we understand that vocabulary helps to create a particular style, tone, or emotion for your reader, but by showing ambitious vocabulary and creative vocab, you can make more of an effect on the reader. Okay, so we can see here I've taken a very simple word, scary, and I've elevated it to terrifying, ominous, and sinister. And now using those words to describe the image would be much more powerful and much more effective. So I'd now like you to move on to question 2, question 3, question 4, and question 5. Well done, Year 10. Well done for your starter activity with your synonyms. I hope you managed to find at least 2 to 3 for each. Okay, now, so we're going to be thinking a bit about using vocabulary to create tone. So how does the writer use language to create an effective tone of a life-threatening and dangerous boat trip? So I'm going to read this description out now to you, and it's about a woman on a boat being caught in a storm. And once I've read that to you, I would like you to answer the below questions. So how has the writer used vocabulary to create an uneasy tone? Think of word choice and its effect. Then pick out one interesting verb, adjective, or simile to describe how these language choices create an effective tone for the reader. And then finally, the challenge question. So to evaluate how effective is the imagery created by the writer's language choices and what effect does it have? Okay, so I'll now read this out to you. Silver lightning streaked through stormy clouds. The harsh waves ripped and roared, and she was flung about in the wreckage. Her heart turned stone cold amongst the icy depths of the sea. The water was streaming over her decks, and her motion was as wild as a wild animal waiting to pounce. She looked death in the face and took one final breath before the treacherous waves engulfed her once more. So some beautiful imagery there, some gorgeous symbolism as well with the figurative language that is used. We've got a lovely adjective, the treacherous waves. We have some personification because the boat is personified. Her motion was as wild as a wild animal waiting to pounce. So the boat is personified, it's been given that human quality. She looked death in the face, which is, of course, a metaphor. So we've got some lovely metaphorical language here as well. And the adjective to describe the waves as harsh is also very effective here, as well as stormy clouds and the light and the silver lightning which is streaked through the stormy clouds. So we've got some very vivid imagery there, okay? So now think about this sort of vocab that's been used to create an uneasy tone, okay? So think of word choice. So the word choice for lightning is described as silver. The stormy clouds streak through stormy clouds. The waves are harsh. So just think about the use of language choice and how has the writer used vocabulary to create an uneasy tone. And also, whilst you're thinking of word choice, also think about its effect, okay? And then move on to choosing one interesting verb, adjective, or simile as well, because we've got a lovely simile there as a wild animal waiting to pounce. And also, how these language choices create an effective tone for the reader, okay? So you're going to be thinking about imagery, you're going to be thinking about tone in the image, but also mainly by the description that's been used to describe the image, okay? And then once you've done this, you can move on to your challenge question and evaluate how effective the imagery created by the writer's language choices are used and what effect does it have. Fantastic, year 10. Okay. Now I'd like to spend 10 minutes on our varying vocabulary practice. So I want you to look at the image on the right of a tumulus storm, and I want to use the bank of sophisticated vocabulary to help you write 3 to 5 adjectives to describe the storm, write 1 to 2 verbs to describe the water, write 1 to 2 similes to describe what is happening, and write 1 sentence using ambitious vocabulary to personify the storm, which is of course personification, okay? And then I'd like you, for our challenge question, to write 1 metaphor to describe the storm to create a dangerous tone, okay? So we'd be thinking about making good word choices, okay? And when I mean good, I mean not using simple language choices. I want you to really think about how you can make your language choices ambitious and elevated. And you can use our bank of high level vocabulary here to help you. So you've got some wonderful words to describe colours, we've got some dramatic verbs, we have some words for emotions, and we've got some high level vocab also for some adjectives here, okay? We've also got some words to describe the weather. So you can use these these vocab banks to help you with this. And you can also use your starter activity to help you as well. And really think about what synonyms you picked. And here, think about sophisticated vocabulary to help you. Okay? So you've got 10 minutes now for this task, so off you go. Well done, year 10. Okay, so now this is your main activity. So I want you to spend at least 20 to 25 minutes on this. And I want you to submit at least 1 side of A4, so 3 large paragraphs. So for this main activity, I want you to be thinking about how we use language for effect. So I want you to write a description suggested by this picture, which is below, and it is a picture of a coastline in a tumulus storm. You can use your starter activity and previous activity to help you, okay? I've got some starter sentences here. If you need support, you don't need to use a starter sentence, but it's here for you to help you. So, the bitter breeze and frosty water smashed against the banks and gushed treacherously across the pavement. Okay, so we've got our lovely adjective there, bitter breeze. We've got the alliterative bitter and the alliterative breeze of the B. Got a lovely adjective to describe the water, frosty, and the way that the water smashed against the banks. We've got that lovely verb there, haven't we? And the way that it gushes, so it's gushed, which we've got a lovely verb again. And treacherously is a fantastic adverb to describe the way that the water is smashing against the banks. Okay, and that really gives us the imagery of the banks with the water gushing over onto the pavement, which is a noun, along with the banks, which is also a noun. Okay, so we can really see the emotive language that is used in this starter sentence, because words such as bitter and frosty and treacherously really bring the language alive, okay? And we have that vibrant imagery there. So for this task, you must use emotive language, a broad use of vocabulary. And I'll just remind you again, you can use your starter activity, use the previous activity for support, and also our high-level vocabulary banks on the previous slide as well to help you. So you need to use emotive language, broad use of vocabulary, figurative language such as metaphor, simile, alliteration, interesting verbs and adjectives, etc. Use sophisticated vocabulary effectively to create tone. Okay, so we're thinking about tone. So when you look at this image, what sort of tone's created? It isn't a positive one, is it? So we can assume this is a negative tone. This can be reflected in your language choices. So I'd like you to use at least 1 to 2 synonyms from your starter activity, okay? So you must include at least 1 to 2 synonyms from your starter activity. Once you've done this, you can move on to your challenge, which is to think about figurative language for effect. Okay, year 10. Well done. Okay, guys, you should have spent about 20 to 25 minutes on your main activity. We're now going to self-assess, so please get your green pens. If you don't have your green pen at home, you can use any colour pen, and if you're doing this online, you can just make sure you're changing the colour of the font, okay? So, now go through this list, spend 5 minutes to read back over your work, to check over your vocabulary choices. Are the words ambitious, and do they fit with the style of writing? If they do, give yourself a tick. If they do not, go back and correct. I have used figurative language to create tone effectively. If you've done this, give yourself a tick. If you have not, go back and correct. I've used sophisticated and ambitious vocabulary, including 1 to 2 synonyms from my starter activity. If you've done this, give yourself a tick. If you haven't done this, make sure you go back and correct. Okay, year 10, well done. Thank you for working hard this lesson. Do not forget to submit your main activity to either Show My Homework or Teams, along with your green pen work. It's been absolutely wonderful running this lesson for you today, and good luck with the rest of your lessons as well. Goodbye.